You're listening to the Valley Labor Report with David Story and Jacob Morrison.
Good morning, Tennessee Valley. Welcome back to the Valley Labor Report. My name is Jacob Morrison, here with my co-host, David Story. On the line, we have two nurses from Pennsylvania, from a union hospital that just won their union election, Joe Gentile and Bill Engel. Between the two of them, more than 60 years of nursing experience. Thank you so much for coming on the line with us today. So, if you could talk to us about the actual union campaign. What were some of the obstacles that y'all faced in the run-up to your union election? What were some of the tactics that the hospital tried to pull?
I guess I could start out with that. I mean, well, first thing they did was they hired what's called union busters. And they picked a group called Brent Yessen and Associates from Tampa, Florida. And they're hired by corporations to come in, and they spend millions of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars to muddy the waters. There's a Section 7 of the National Labor Relations Act that gives employees the right to unionize. And what the union busters do is they try to blur the lines. They try to get you not to believe in the rights that you have. Like each place of employment has solicitation policies. And believe it or not, the more you are out front with what you want to do as far as a union, the more the protections you have to be able to talk to people in work, to be able to, gather on the grounds. I mean, they called the police on us in the garage when we were there talking with employees. And, the police weren't used to dealing with unions, so they didn't know that we had a legal right to be there. But as it comes to find out, they did find out. And we actually filed what's called a ULP, an unfair labor practice, against the hospital, and we won. And I sent that to you earlier, Jacob. And they had to post it in the hospital saying, all the things that, they will not do to us. And it was all based upon all the different tactics that they did. Joe has some personal stories he can share with you in that regard, Joe.
Sure. So what happened was, for 30 years, many of us were heroes in the hospital. Many of us were well-respected and honored. And when Trinity took over and we started to see the degradation of all that, we started talking about union, and within days we went from heroes to villains. And they vilified us. They literally sent out flyers with pictures of us defaming and slandering our character.
Wow.
They wanted to incite us so that we would either try to sue them or get all crazy in the head about it so that we wouldn't continue this fight. I'm telling you, it was diabolical. It was wicked and evil. They hired these lawyers to do that, and they really, really tried to destroy our character. But for people who knew us in our community and in our hospital family, 600, 800 nurses, they realized this isn't right. So everything they tried to do to us, to tear us down, actually backfired on them because people knew who we were and what our character was. And all I say to nurses who are trying to do this, stay the course. It's going to be a wicked and evil fight. You can go from hero to villain in a minute. And we're caregivers. We're not truly fighters. We're caregivers. And so they're going to work on your sympathies. They're going to try to get inside your head and twist things so that you don't even know what is upright. And they're going to try to get into your soul and say, what you're doing is wrong. You got to stop. But we, as nurses, we didn't know our rights. I didn't know my rights. And at one point, like Bill said, I told them, if you want me to leave this place, because this is my federal right to organize, and to talk to my fellow nurses as they come out and go into shift. You're going to have to move me because I'm not moving. And I'm a 63-year-old guy. I'm like, and I'm a small guy. I'm like, you're going to have to move me. And I'm thinking, I don't believe this is coming out of my mouth. And then they came out and they tried, but they didn't want to touch me. Then I said, look, just call the cops if you're that chicken. So they did. 3 policemen came up, and then it was kind of crazy. I talked to the police officers. I know them. I knew one of them. Wow. And I said, guys, this is my federal right. You better check the law. And they said, yeah, well, but wait, because they didn't know it, right? But this is what they're going to do. The fight is going to get ugly and diabolical. Stay the course because your federal rights are protected.
Correct, and they will try and divide you. But one thing we found out was that, like Joe had spoken earlier, just the way the hospitals are set up, you're kind of siloed off. Nurses in the OR impact you. They don't get a chance to see nurses outside and other places, but just from us in the organizing campaign, we got to speak to each other, and we realized we all felt the same way, that we're all going through the same feelings. So really, the organizing campaign made us stronger as nurses with each other and more understanding. And they tried to keep dividing us, and it just didn't work. It was great, actually.
Hey guys, we appreciate y'all coming on. This is David. One of the things that really bothers me is they always try to demonize the folks that are organizing a union for a democratic voice on the job, but they don't never want to look introspectively and look at exactly what they're doing to the patients that's on the floors, what they're doing to the patients that's in the ER, and what they're doing to the overall well-being of the nurses that they're employing. And that's I'm dealing with nurses right now organizing in Gadsden, and they come out with a fierce anti-union campaign talking about the nurses are just greedy, but it's these private equity firms that buy up these hospitals and start cutting costs with absolutely zero respect for the patients that's coming in every day.
Oh yeah, that's because they're bean counters, they're number counters. Those are people who are they treat the patients like widgets, like manufacturers. You know what I mean? They just treat it like if there's less people on the assembly line, it doesn't matter. But these are not inanimate objects that we're dealing with. These are people who have feelings and emotions and all that stuff. So they'll never understand it.
And most of
them
are
that's where the nurses need to come out and just tell their stories.
Yeah, and most of them are paying real good money to be taken care of properly. It's not like the insurance companies are cutting the costs for any of us out here paying for health insurance.
Exactly right.
Yep, we're coming up on another break. If it's all right with y'all, we'd like to bring you on for one more segment. We'll be talking about your contract negotiations. I'm interested in hearing how they're going and what's happened after the union election. Stay tuned, folks. This is the Valley Labor Report. Thanks for listening, folks. If you want to keep up with us throughout the week, you can follow us online. We've got a Facebook page, facebook.com/Valley Labor Report. You can search us on YouTube at The Valley Labor Report. We're on Twitter at Labor Reporters. I'm on Twitter at JacobM_AL. David is on Twitter at Radical Unionist, RADICL Unionist. If you appreciate our work and want to ensure that we can stay on the air, consider supporting us with a monthly donation on Patreon at patreon.com/The Valley Labor Report.